Schwartz, the veteran sportscaster. You know, they affectionately known in this area as the sports guy. Pete Thompson, sports guy. Is that how you would recognize him, as the sports guy?
No, more like Pete Thompson.
PT?
PT.
Peter?
Remember my business cards. What have we done with Carson Wentz? I'm hearing some Foo Fighters back there. He reappeared in time, and there went the defense. That's about all I got because I don't know that song that well, but I know it starts something like that.
I like that, though. What did we do with Carson Wentz? That was a good start. Yeah, it said the sports guy on his business card. He would hand out his business card, and it just said sports guy on it.
Not the sports guy? Just
Did it say the sports guy?
No, you had to pay more for the word "the," Hunter. That cost more money.
Fair enough.
I was paying for these suckers. I mean, come on.
So you said, what did they do with Carson Wentz? But what have they done with Nate Geary? What do we do with this guy?
Oh, my God. If he was, if it was livestock or something, you'd just put him down, right? I mean, the guy is brutal. And how about that dance that Jim Schwartz did today to avoid all blame whatsoever? I'll just push this over here, and pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I mean, it just, I was thinking about this too, about scrolling through some social media. Did you guys both see the Emmanuel Acho breakdown of how bad that play was?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just, and I understand that he's trying to give credit to Big Ben for reading it, but then people are throwing back at him like, wasn't that the quarterback's job to exploit the weakest person? And I heard you say earlier, Gil, it doesn't matter who they're playing, whatever the opposition is, find number 47 and go at him because he's bad.
There's no other way to explain it.
Time.
There's no other way to explain it. I don't know how Jim Schwartz, I get it. He doesn't want to bury his guy. But I don't understand, the explanation today. He says what we called was a good defense against what they had called, but Ben recognized it. Yeah, Ben saw 47 on the field, and he went right after him. I mean, how hard is that for anybody to see?
Now, I thought I heard you guys say it was Jalen Mills, but wasn't it Nickel Roby Coleman? Who was the guy that was next to him basically telling
Mills.
him? That was Mills then. Okay, trying to basically tell him, dude, hello. How could you not only be that bad, but then you're so locked in? It's not like the stadium was full of Steelers fans or you were playing in the Metrodome, or wherever the Vikings play now, US Bank Stadium or something like that. You weren't somewhere where you couldn't hear the guy next to you yelling at you. What kind of zone are you going in? And is it the phantom zone? Because that's where we need to send him. You said, what do we need to do with him? Send him to the phantom zone, like it's Superman. Josh is laughing at that. He just goes forever and ever and never to be heard from again. And this is a Nebraska guy I'm ripping on, so he must really be bad.
Josh did laugh, and he is still laughing as we speak. I am at the point now, after a couple of days of letting it settle in and I'm digesting what happened, you just have to call a timeout. Somebody needs to recognize that this play is going to fail. We are doomed. And instead of, the philosophy of we need that timeout later, it doesn't make sense because if they score based off of your personnel on the field or your zone coverage at that time isn't going to work, then that timeout doesn't mean anything. Somebody needs to step up and call the timeout. Is that Doug Peterson? Is that somebody on the field? Someone needs to recognize that a new play has to be figured out there.
Pretty Bush answer by Schwartzy today, too, by the way, saying the head coach calls the timeouts. I don't call a timeout. Dude, you've been a head coach in the league. You are the defensive coordinator, and you can look at the field and recognize, SpaghettiOs, we're about to get burned. I don't care who calls it. In basketball, it doesn't matter. In other sports, it doesn't matter. There's all kinds of safeguards in sports for when you realize you're about to give one up. You're about to give up something easy. You make a adjustment and you call that timeout. And for Schwartz to say whoa, that's not me, dude. Yeah, it is. It's your defense. You're the one that's supposed to realize that first and foremost.
Yeah,
that ticks me off.
And as for Nathan Geary, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. That's what I have to say for him. I mean, I don't understand how. And I get to the point seriously, Pete, where I'm wondering if Schwartz is we were laughing about the Phillies, where Girardi just kept putting Workman in the game because he's like, dude, this is what you gave me. If Schwartz is doing the same thing, you gave me Geary, I'm going to keep playing him because this is all I got.
Yeah, and I heard you ask that in Football at 4, and you almost think, though, at the end of the day, is Schwartz that vindictive? Is that something that he does? Like, I'm going to keep running this guy out even though I know he sucks? I mean, you would think, too, that ultimately then doesn't that affect Schwartz's future and his job if you keep running out substandard players? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think that they're going to fire Howie and not you? No, they're going to clean house of everybody. So I don't understand that logic. I mean, but I see your point. I mean, it's possible. I'd like to think that a defensive coordinator in the National Football League is not so petty as to, I know this guy sucks, you know this guy sucks, but I'm going to keep running him out there to exploit that fact.
Well, you wonder, PT, in Philadelphia, we have this innate ability to judge a guy whether we like him based on personality, right? It doesn't matter whether the guy's any good. We don't like your face. We have a bad personality. Jim Schwartz is an unlikable guy. So I feel like that plays into, Gabe Kapler was just an unlikable guy. So we just didn't like him, even though his team was no worse than Joe Girardi's team. But we liked Joe Girardi. So Girardi was a great manager and Kapler was awful. Meanwhile, they had the same record. Schwartz is an unlikable guy.
And not only that, his philosophy doesn't match up with what Eagles fans lust for, right? If you think of the Eagles defensive coordinators that have been revered, and I put Buddy Ryan in that group because he was essentially the defensive coordinator that happened to also be the head coach. But if you think of Jim Johnson, you think of Buddy Ryan, you think of defenses that have been strong and revered, they're defenses that get after the quarterback. And Jim Schwartz doesn't necessarily do that. Like, his base plan is, if we don't get pressure we're going to try to get pressure with our four, and then we'll leave our corners out on the island and see what they can do. And obviously they're not doing it. I mean, they certainly weren't doing it with the linebacker there in Nate Gary. I mean, that was awful.
Yeah, I might be in the minority here, but I actually like Jim Schwartz, and it's crazy to me that everyone talks about how obvious his scheme is. And they're right. His scheme is ridiculously obvious. With that being said, 2017, top 4 defense. 2018, top 9 defense. So those 2 years are talking about top 5 and top 10 defenses in the league. Last year it was the 15th, which is average in the league, but his scheme works. To me, Jim Schwartz, I'm not saying he's elite. I'm not saying he's like this fantastic, insane defensive coordinator, but he's a good defensive coordinator in this league. He might be the one that gets snipped at the end of the season because they're going to want to make a change and it won't be Doug or Carson, so it will be Jim Schwartz. But I do think that the Jim Schwartz hate is very overblown, and he has a good scheme. Right now, though, the personnel is just horrendous.
The personnel is poor, I'll give you that. And I don't hate the guy. I mean, look, sometimes he has some of the more entertaining answers at his weekly press conference and some of the more entertaining media sessions. That said, here's an example, okay? I didn't like the Jim Schwartz sticks defense when I first saw him play that defense. And then the more I watched it, the more I thought, well, it does make sense. I mean, you can give up anything underneath. It does work, and statistics show that it works. I mean, there's always going to be anomalies, and there's always going to be times where it's 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 18, and the other team does pick it up. But if you're jamming 8-10 people at the line to gain and basically saying, take anything you want underneath, and then we'll come get you, that works. I mean, there's an example of something I didn't like from Jim Schwartz, and now I'm okay with it. But really, I mean, look, here's what we're not talking about today. We're talking about Nate Gary getting burned. We're talking about Jim Schwartz and his philosophy. The Eagles' defensive line had one stinking sack, and the Steelers had one of their starting linemen go out of the game right off the bat, and they still finished with one stinking sack. Like, as the defensive line goes, the defense as an overall goes. And they did not get the pressure that they needed to get. I understand Ben gets rid of the ball in a hurry. He's a veteran quarterback. He makes good decisions to get the ball out in a hurry. But you got to get more than one sack, especially if you've got a weakness to exploit.
It's so funny because now you're playing a team with Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, a big bruising running back. And all I keep thinking is, next week, Schwartz is going to have to get up there again and get questions about how Gary got ran over and how Gary can't keep up with Andrews and how Gary couldn't keep up with Lamar Jackson. I mean, I feel bad. I must feel bad for this guy by now.
Yeah, and I heard you asking about, where are these people? Like, where is Stuart Bradley that bad that he can't play? I mean, where are the linebackers?
Not Stuart Bradley. Sean Bradley.
I'm sorry. Sean Bradley. Stuart Bradley. I'm going back 8 years. Sorry,
I was thinking
Josh
Rod
is now
Stewart.
really laughing. Josh is laughing so hard that I can hear him laughing through my end of the phone. But you understand my point, which is that, they're completely.
That's right. John Clayton called J.J. Arcega-Whiteside Whitehead, so that's how little he's revered around the league.
Oh my goodness! Clarissville called. They want that line. They want that defensive guys or off receivers.
You should have stopped while you were ahead.
I was trying to make a joke. Sean, here's your guys, right? Sean Bradley, Nate Geary, Alex Singleton, T.J. Edwards. That's it. Are you kidding me? You put all four of them together, I don't know that you get a starting NFL player. That's the problem. And listen, when I'm watching another NFL football game and I hear like Camus Grugier-Hill's name come up and I'm actually waxed, I'm like, oh, I missed that guy. Are you kidding me? I missed that guy. I'm missing a guy who wasn't even he was best known for what? A good kick one time. He had a good kickoff one time, right? I mean, you got to be kidding me. And those guys are more talented than what we have right now in our linebacking core.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he made a statement before that Dallas Cowboys game, and then off the kickoff, he was the one to force the big fumble that they did not overturn, that it was clearly obvious that 3 Eagles were on them. But, it's interesting listening to DeCecco talk, and you mentioned you were listening at Football at 4. When he was talking about Davion Taylor, he honestly gave me a mindset of what they did with Davion Taylor in the 3rd round is essentially exactly what they did with Jordan Mailata in the 7th. And it's just unacceptable to do that in the 3rd compared to the 7th. But look, if Jordan Mailata, who was a project piece in the 7th, becomes your starting left tackle, could you make the argument that, hey, if they do the same with that linebacker in 3 years, they'll be good to go at that position?
If you can afford to wait, I mean, that's the problem is that, it's one thing when you, every 4 years, 5 starting linemen and 5 backups and then a couple more backups. You've got 10 to 12 guys that you keep to have enough healthy bodies. It's another thing when you're talking about a linebacker position and you don't have that much depth there to begin with. You can't stash a project on there. You can't take Davion Taylor and wait 2 years for this guy to mature into what you think he's going to be. You don't have the time to do that. And we're seeing that right now as Gary gets burned time and time again. Or, Duke Riley, look, the guy, he looks good out there, but has Duke Riley made a play that's made you go, hell yeah. The play of the linebacking core for the entire season is Alex Singleton's pick 6, and that's it.
Yeah, well, the pick 6 there was a fumble in the last game. In this game,
yeah, that was Duke Riley. Actually, it was Ebron who fumbled it. Duke Riley. It wasn't like he really forced it. He was just happening to be there, and it happened when he was there, kind of thing.
Yeah, but they finally got a turnover, and then you thought they actually got another one, right? You thought they almost got the second one on that one where Geary actually picked it up.
Well, what was the so in the game where Alex Singleton had to pick 6?
That was San Fran,
right? What was the other turnover though? Because there were a couple. Who had it? Was there an interception? Was there something? What happened? Someone had an interception, right? Fumble?
6 was in that San Francisco game. I think there was a fumble in that.
Cravon LeBlanc maybe forced a fumble.
There was
Avery.
2 last game, wasn't there, against Pittsburgh?
Are we all confused about how many turnovers there were? This is crazy.
Well, that isn't they had a problem there for a while, but in the game again, they had it wasn't an interception, it was a fumble recovery they had against Pittsburgh, right? And then the game against San Francisco, they had 2 interceptions.
Were there 2? Alex Singleton and who else?
I don't know, but I think Mullins, I'm pretty sure, threw 2 interceptions.
Oh, Rodney McLeod. That's correct. Okay, I'm just trying. Look at us. We're baffled by how many turnovers. We can't even get our mind straight. It's crazy. Yet we're still ripping the defense because it makes no sense.
Well, the defense has been
the defense because the defense is what cost you the game.
Right.
I mean, none of us. There may be 3 of us not remembering how many turnovers they were and where they came. All 3 of us agree that the defense cost the Eagles the football game.
All right. Well, then at the beginning of the season, did we think the defense was going to be a problem?
We didn't think it was going to be this bad. Did we think it was going to be a problem? Well, here's the issue that I have, Mike Gill, is that we spent the entire offseason, and when we got into this COVID situation of is there going to be a preseason, there is going to be a preseason, that's okay because, the Eagles have the most stability, Doug Peterson and Jim Schwartz and, these guys, and they know the system. Little did we know that stability at the coaching staff doesn't mean focus when your talent sucks. And that's really the issue to me is that, they weren't able, no preseason meant they weren't able to gel, but nobody else was able to gel either. The defense cost him that football game, and, Jim Schwartz is the head of that defense, so that's why he gets a lot of my anger.
I also think heading into the season, we convinced ourselves, which we seem to do a lot, like, Jalen Mills would be great at safety. Avonte Maddox would be great on the opposite side of Darius Slay. Like, we just convinced ourselves that these players would work out in these new roles. And when you look at it, I didn't think Avonte Maddox was strong. I didn't think Jalen Mills was strong at safety. We knew the linebacking core was going to be bad, but we didn't expect it to be this bad. We just kind of convinced ourselves that these holes would work because they moved different players in different areas when that just wasn't the case. So I guess shame on us at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of overrate people. And I know, obviously, Avonte Maddox has got his injury issues. Now Darius Slay's in the concussion protocol. I mean, if anything should scare the heck out of you coming out of this game going into the Baltimore game, it's the fact that Darius Slay is probably the best guy in the secondary. He is the best guy in the secondary, and now he's questionable for the Baltimore game because he's in the concussion protocol. Are you kidding me? You're already bad. Once you get past the Eagles' defensive line, as we know from the number of sacks they've had, whether it's Barnett or Sweat or Jackson or Hargrave or Cox or Ridgeway or Graham or Avery, whoever it is back there on the D line, whoever those guys are, one of the 4, one of the 8, whatever, you're doing your NASCAR rotating. That isn't the problem. When you get past the defensive line and you start to go into the secondary of linebackers and corners and safety and right corner, left corner, I mean, that's where you're like dumpster fire. Oh, my goodness. Bring on the hoses. We're going to need more water. This is burning.
Well, it doesn't get any easier this week with the Ravens here. Pete Thompson, Tuesday with Thompson, right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Boy. I do want to get your thoughts on Gustafson.
Oh, you know what? I was a little upset that I thought they were going to go after Schmidt or the guy from Vegas. Once Petrangelo went to Vegas and that guy was available. Now, we don't know. Maybe, there's a possibility, I suppose, that the Flyers were on his list, but I don't think so. I mean, he ended up going, I think, somewhere else in the West. He stayed in the West. Gustafson, to me, compares or is comparable to Shane Gostisbehere. He's kind of a puck-moving offensive defenseman. He's not really the if that's your guy that you're holding up, saying we're holding him up to replace Niskanen, well, you totally went in a different way, and now you have 2 Shane Gostisbeheres. Does that mean you have somebody that's interested in Gostisbehere and you get something else? I mean, the only thing that made sense was I did see Sam Carchidi talk about the fact that the expansion draft is coming up, and because that's why they very much wanted somebody on a 1-year deal. Anybody else they would have got would have had 2 years, 3 years, maybe 4 years left on their contract. Here, and then they'd have to expose somebody like Oscar Lindblom. Look, I guess that would be such a Philly thing. To me, right now, I sit here and go, sure, expose Nolan Patrick. That's fine with me. Nobody will take him. But the reality is it's Philly, and they'd expose Nolan Patrick, and then he'd go somewhere else, and all of a sudden, like Markel Fultz's problems would go away, and he'd be a solid player somewhere else. Wouldn't that be so Philly?
Absolutely. I'm okay with the signing. I don't think that they anticipate him to fill a Matt Niskanen type role. The expansion draft is definitely a valid reason to go in this direction. And the cap, you look at how much he's on the books for now. I was talking to Kevin Durso about it. If you add up Justin Braun and Gustafson and you combine them together, that was what Matt Niskanen's contract was. But I do think now that Ghost is going to be traded. And I also feel like there's a hole with Provorov. I don't know if moving up a Sanheim with Provorov or putting even, Gustafson in there with Provorov, if that's going to be enough of a good defensive core. So,
well, don't forget Phil Myers. I think Phil Myers is the guy that they're targeting to put up with Provorov on that top pairing.
Would that make you feel comfortable, though? Because I don't know if I'm that comfortable with it.
It's not Niskanen, but, if you think Provorov has turned the corner after playing with Niskanen and understands more about when he can gamble and when he can't and how, and Provorov's always been able to log the minutes. If you get that together, then, Gustafson's an established NHLer. You put him with Sanheim on the second pairing, and then, maybe you throw him on the third with Robert Hagen there. Look, you got some room to play with who goes where, but the bottom line is this was a money deal. This was a deal also to protect themselves for the expansion draft that's coming up. Does it light the needle? No, but hey, you know what? People thought they overpaid for Kevin Hayes last year, and he turned out okay. So I just have to have faith. look, I was a little bummed too. I mean, whatever that team, I forget, and I want to say maybe it was Anaheim. I want to say whoever it was that got Schmidt from Vegas, all they gave up was like draft picks. I mean, Vegas was like, we got to get this salary off our books. So that ticks me off. But hey, look,
he went to Vancouver, I believe.
That's it. I knew it started with I knew it was in the West. I knew that.
Hey,
That's about as much as I knew.
PT, the Eagles are going to allow fans back in, 7,500 people. Now, that includes players, coaches, media, and, workers. So, there might be about 7,000 fans in there. Would the PT attend a game?
So my dad, who's a season ticket holder since 1973, forwarded me the email from the Eagles today. And he sent it to me and my brother, I think. It said, any interest in this? And it's all kind of like the ticket window opens up tomorrow. There's no guarantee you will get tickets. My dad's seats are in row 6 of section 135, and the first 6 rows are tarped off. So what does that mean? They put them in 7? You get like 1 seating pod. You can get 2, 4, or 6 based on availability and all this stuff. I mean, you can't resell them. You can use the money out, So his window is tomorrow from 9 to 11. I just wrote back to him and said, I'll watch it on TV. Is there interest in going? Sure, but maybe not this Sunday.
All right. Well, so you would go to a game?
Oh, I absolutely would go to a game, 100%. I mean, I'd be sitting with my dad if it was just me and him. For 2 of us,
yeah,
sure.
No, some people are. The Steelers were allowed 5,500. They couldn't get 4,500 in that place. That people weren't going. I mean, I guess some people just aren't ready to be in a crowd like that.
And boy, it sure is nice when you don't have to drive up anywhere, and you're not leaving 4 hours ahead of time, and your big screen TV looks fantastic. And
well, I'll tell you, I've been to, it was at the Vet, but I went to a West Virginia Temple game, and there was probably about 7,500 people there.
I've been to some Temple football games at the Vet where there were more chairs than people.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Right there with you.
So I know what it's like to be in a stadium that's pretty darn empty like that. All right, Peter, it's a Tuesday with Thompson here on the Sports Bash. And it's brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. We'll get Pete's Pick on Friday for Happy Hour Friday. And then we're going to see you on Saturday, PT.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to that. The big MG soiree. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. I will be there.
PT will be there. Hunter, Josh, Frank Close, Billy Schwein.
Is this a yearly thing?
Oh, boy.
Is it a
well, he just said
thing?
The annual, unless I heard that wrong.
Well, I've only lived at the house for 1 year, so maybe it will be an annual thing.
Not to put pressure on you or anything, but.
Yeah. No, it has not been annual, but, this is one. And
let's see how
we
it
have
goes.
shifts it's shifts, like families coming early, then girlfriends, friends. Like, we're doing it so, like, there's people not all there at the same time. People will be spread out. We got tables kind of all over, so it'll be nice. There's some people that we have coming as a surprise for you, PT.
Oh, I love it. I love surprises. Well, I will be there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Bring a hoodie. Does this mean, by the way? Okay, one thing that you'll never see is PT. PT never wears a dungaree. Never denim.
Khaki shorts.
Always a khaki or blue pant.
Slack, yes.
Yeah, always a slack.
He'll never go dungaree.
Never seen PT. I've seen him wear jeans once.
Where was this?
Yep.
I forget, but he wore them once. But my request, PT, is maybe show up with a pair of jeans on and a hoodie.
I'd have to go buy some. And I don't wear hoodies.
Just jeans and a hoodie. That's all. Just like a jeans and a hoodie look.
What's wrong with the hoodie?
Just don't wear them, man. I usually run hot. There's no reason for me to.
Well, it's going to be a little chilly Saturday. You going to go turtleneck?
Nah, I have a nice Flyers coat that I could probably wear if I get a little chilly.
All right, here's a question for the people out there. Billy Schwein go turtleneck with a sleeveless sweater, Argyle.
I think Billy Schweim's going locker room with Billy Schweim attire.
Wouldn't surprise me. I feel like he goes turtleneck, sleeveless sweater, Argyle print on the front. Green Argyle.
If he wears this, something's going to freak me out.
Yeah. Schwein goes dungaree.
Oh, yeah, I could see Schwein.
He's
with
a
the
denim
dungaree.
guy.
Yeah, I could see Schwein
Denim guy. You know what
dungaree.
else Schwein goes?
There's a lot of answers to this question. So what are you saying?
White sneak blue N.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yes,
will
he
go
does.
Master 3 sound.
Yes,
Yes.
he will go white. And if he shows up to my house wearing white sneaks, blue N, I'm handing him the spatula and say, buddy, flip me a burger. I mean, he has got burger duty right away with those kicks on.
Sometimes, though, it's the Nike version.
Yeah,
Nike
blue
version's in
N
play.
or blue Nike swoosh.
Yeah.
I don't think Schweim supports Nike, though.
Fair point.
Yeah, I don't think he's going Nike anymore. I think he's bailed on that product. But that might he's going blue N. He'll go New Balance. Kawhi is a New Balance guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So maybe Schweim might bail on them too. Who knows? All right, Sports Bash Live. PT, we'll talk to you happy hour Friday.
Yep, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right. He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.